Shalom and welcome to another broadcast today. We have my guest Amor Russell again with us today. And today we're going to be talking about identities and spirituality. Do you have to belong to a certain group? Do you have to belong to a certain religious order? Or do you not? Can you be free of all of that? So stay tuned and enjoy the show. Hello and welcome. And our guest, Amor Russell, is in the house again. And we had a conversation last night that I think we're going to bleed into today's discussion because we were talking about his journey and my journey also. And we've been through a lot of places and a lot of religions and stuff like that. And Amor, I know in your journey, you talked a little bit about it last week. But do we need a particular... I know the church would say you have to be a Christian and within the church to be saved, or maybe Jews would say you have to be Jewish to do halakha to be correct before the Lord, and Islam would say that you have to be, Islamic to be right before the Lord. What are your thoughts on this subject?
Well, of course, the peace that passes all understanding must therefore, by definition, pass all theologies, all dogmas, and all religious beliefs, right? Because the peace that everyone's seeking, and it doesn't really matter if it's atheist or everyone wants peace.
Right. I agree.
As soon as your feet hits the floor, you're looking for a good day. You just want to have a beautiful day. So that does not require that you belong to anything but the great lodge of the universe itself.
Right.
And really, that's the only true lodge there is. So everyone knows that's followed my teachings that I've actually joined many different sects and have been initiated in Freemasonry, Sufism, and other sects, Kundalini Yoga and all that. But those were just very fun, entertaining, and experiential. But these experiences come and go. And what I've noticed is that what remains forever is that eternal abiding state of peace that everyone is seeking,
right?
Atheists and believers alike. That's free of charge. And that does not require, no, I don't believe it requires you be part of any particular organization, group, or church or anything.
Right. Well, I know a friend of mine, David Ben Shul, and I, we do a lot of shows on religious boxes and how people will get in a box. And a box is not altogether bad. Sometimes it's where you need to be to grow and learn. And God knows if it wasn't for the church years ago, I don't know where I would be today. It did give me a grounding foundation on the Creator and help me start. But even when you read the Old Testament, the Torah, whatever you want to call it, Abraham experienced nature. He experienced the Creator in a way. Now, I know we write it in today as, Judaism and maybe Noahidism to some people. But in reality, when you see the journey of Abraham, you see him just experiencing the Creator in some form. And I like to believe that he noticed it through probably teachings, oral teachings he had through the past. Also, too, just through nature, just going outside, just seeing the awesomeness of the Creator. And you were talking today about being in the park. And I like to go out quite often in my backyard, especially when the sun's going down, when the heat goes down, and just look at nature. Now, many people would say that's a deist observation. Maybe so. But the fact of the matter is also I find my closest relationship with the Creator when I am in nature and when I'm watching my animals. We have chickens, we have ducks, we have dogs, we have cats. Just watching these animals just live daily on the daily life teaches me more about the Creator than probably most initiations I've had within religious organizations and books that I can explain anyway.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, when you're talking about nature,
right.
And every morning I just get up and I do a little Zazen meditation.
Right.
Here in my Zendo, which is what, and doing Zen meditation is absolutely doing nothing.
Right.
It's just setting in the calmness and letting your thoughts be still.
Right.
And in that, the peace rushes in, and then you take that out into the world and you experience it with everyone you greet, meet, and see. And this morning I went to the park and actually experienced that. And the very thing you just said came up, because when you're talking about nature, like the park or the forest or anywhere where you see nature, and are out in nature, you're talking about natural,
Right.
because nature is natural.
Right.
And the natural path of the initiation path, see, because all initiation schools, I don't know if you knew that, but all the schools of initiation are based on natural law and based on nature. For example, the first 3 degrees of Freemasonry is just the sun going down into the winter solstice and rising back up, being born again every spring,
Right. Right.
And of course, that happens with the allegory of the Christ as well. You see the death and the burial and the resurrection of the Son of God, the SUN, if you will.
Right.
But these are all just allegories that we have turned into religious symbols.
Right.
And we've got lost in the symbol and forgot their natural meaning, which is to connect with nature. That's it. So nature itself is a call to go back to that natural, spontaneous initiation. Let me tell you, if you go to the park and sit on the bench long enough, you'll go through an initiation process.
You will. Well, even I'll bring this in too. Even Passover in its original timing and set probably dealt with the crossing over from Egypt. Well, even before then, it was a solstice. It was from the spring, the winter into the spring for harvesting. So that ties in with what you're saying also. And now I'm a big nerd with some of these shows about Expeditions Unknown, and all of these ancient temples and stuff that they study all dealt with the solstice. It all dealt with the changings of the seasons. It just verifies what you're saying, that even within our DNA, I believe that we are programmed into this natural realm that we're here now. And that's what we're rediscovering, is that us and nature are one. And we're just really part of human animals, what we are. I mean, of course, we're obviously, maybe a little bit more intellect, but in their eyes, we may be a little bit dumb. But the fact of the matter is we're actually truly getting back to our natural selves is what we're doing.
Right. Yes. And isn't that what we really want to do, is get back to our natural state?
Yes.
Our natural state is pure awareness, pure being. And what gets in the way is the conceptual mind.
Right.
So for me, recently, I have actually been letting it all go. I've kind of burned out a little bit on the, I don't make as many videos as I used to, because there's nothing left to say. It's like, okay, I've said it. And as much as inspiring and helpful it is to know things, the realm of peace and the realm of your natural state is beyond the conditioned mind.
Right.
So now I'm getting to the point, brother, where I no longer want to condition the mind with any more religious rituals, thoughts. I want to see into my own nature, my own true nature, which is why I went to the park this morning. And I had a Zen book with me and a Taoist book with me.
Right.
And I'd read a little, but mostly it was the trees that were teaching me. It was the clouds that were going by. It was the beautiful smiles on the people's faces when they walked in the park. Life is teaching you always.
Right.
Now, I don't know if you ever saw this movie, The Peaceful Warrior, with Nick Nolte, and you must see it.
Okay.
There's a scene in the movie where actually this demonstration is made clear, where this student meets his teacher in the park. And he says, "Don't you see what's going on?" is what he told the guy. And the student says, "Nothing's going on. Nothing's going on." And he took a hold on to him on the back of his shoulders and pointed him out to the park. And the boy's eyes was open, and he saw the laughter of the child. He saw the dog's tail wagging. He saw the flowers waving in the wind. And he had this experience. There's only life experiencing as pure consciousness. This is the dance of life. God is life.
Right.
And everyone in the park is a reflection and a manifestation of that singular consciousness.
Right.
There's only one consciousness in the park, in other words.
Right.
There's only one consciousness wagging its tail. There's only one consciousness playing frisbee over with the children and swinging. There's only one life, and there's only one. And so his eyes was opened, and then the master said to him, turned him back around, and he said, "See," he said, "I told you, there's never nothing going on."
Right. Well,
it's all around.
It's contagious too, because as you go out to the park or you see these things, you want to experience that more. You want to get back to it. I know, and I can speak this to you because you're former Pentecostal too. But back in the day, when you heard a church was having a revival, you just had to go see what was going on. You had to see what, experience that, and see if it was a true, and you would judge whether it was a true work of God or not. But the same thing is true with the Creator. For instance, joy. You talk a lot about joy. God is joy. God is love. The fact of the matter is joy is contagious, because I guarantee you, we could take 10 people and me and you could just start laughing for no reason whatsoever. And eventually, every 10 people in that circle, if they're normal, are all going to be laughing. And they're not going to even know what they're laughing about, because it's contagious. And to me, the Creator is the same way. To try to describe the Creator or whatever would be an impossible thing. But when we start letting the attributes of joy, peace, love, all of these things, it is contagious. And I think that's what we're lacking in this world today, is we're sharing more of the negative attributes of ego, war, anger, fighting, and stuff like that. And we're not sharing the fruits that we're supposed to. And I think that if we could readjust, or as Paul said, I can't remember the quote, but if we could rearrange our minds and rearrange our spirits, I think we could do much better in this world than what we're doing.
Yes, that is true, brother. That is true. You know, all the ships in the ocean rise with the water level.
Have to.
When the water level rises, all the ships in the ocean rise with it.
Right. Have to.
And that's when your consciousness raises, and when you laugh,
right,
all the stars in heaven are laughing.
Right.
Because there's only one consciousness here, and this is the whole problem. All suffering is the belief in separation.
That's right.
That you're over there and I'm over here, and you're having a bad day and I'm having a good day, and but the truth is, you're one consciousness just having a day.
Right.
Just having a day.
One of your teachings that probably touched me the most, you did a few months ago, and it was on death. And what it did to me was, it kind of, first of all, it showed me that there's nothing I can do about that anyway. It's going to happen. Everybody's going to experience that thing. But how we handle that attitude, how we handle that, changes your whole perspective on life in the first place. I have to live every life as though it is the last day. And to sit back at the time of my death and find out maybe, oh, God forbid you have cancer or something, you got 6 weeks to live, and realize what you've wasted in your life, what you didn't do. Going to the park, seeing your grandchildren, experiencing life like you should be. I think that's what the biggest fear would be for me. It's not the point of death, but it's the fact that I didn't live life to what I should.
That's it. That's it. Did I love enough? Did I share? Did I forgive enough? Did I let go? And so if you died today, for example, now if you passed away and you died today, what would matter to you would be up on that point was, my God, did I live today full? Was my last day on earth lived to its fullest?
Right.
And if not, then perhaps you could reflect on that here and now. You don't have to wait till you die.
No.
You can reflect here and now and experience every day in its fullness,
right?
As if it's your last.
Right. And something else you said last week was you said, I don't know if we were off air or on air, but we were talking about knowledge, that we can obtain as much knowledge, we can learn as much initiation, spiritual books, whatever, but possibly there's going to be a chance that we're going to forget all of this through just senility or being old, or God forbid, anything. So what good does it do? So I would rather practice it than I would learn it any day.
That's right. That's right. So I'm getting into the age of my life to that, in a way, your age initiates you.
Correct.
It should. If it doesn't, something terribly is wrong.
Right.
Because you should have evolved from adolescent to youth to old age. Those, by the way, are the 3 degrees of all initiation schools. It is. It's going through that childhood, youth, and old age. Those three stages of life. Those are 3 stages that you go through. Again, you're being initiated into those 3 stages of life, whether you know it or not. And what you want to get out of that is that when you reach that final stage of life, is what I'm saying, where personally I'm at now, is all the knowledge and all the books and all the concepts don't have as much meaning, you know. And like you said, at some point you get Alzheimer's and you can't remember anything anyway.
Right.
So what good was it?
Right.
You know?
Right.
So you can have that experience now. You don't have to wait till you get Alzheimer's to let everything go.
No.
So I'm starting to practice Alzheimer's now.
Right.
Through meditation and through surrender and and just letting go, because I'm no longer interested in conditioning my mind.
No.
The conditioned mind is the whole problem.
Right.
And it doesn't matter if that mind is conditioned with a Christian beliefs or Hindu belief or Buddhist beliefs or Gnostic beliefs even.
Right.
You can get so full of ideas that your mind gets totally becomes a veil that blocks you from the real experience.
Right.
You see?
Well, yeah. And another thing too, you're talking about like Gnosticism and stuff, which I've been studying and stuff like that. At some point, you have to come to the conclusion, it doesn't matter if Sophia's or this stuff doesn't really matter, because it's what you're doing with life. It's not about the knowledge that you'll learn. It's not about trying to figure out the history of Jesus or the history of Moses or the history of any of these people. It's about the experience of living. And I cannot emphasize it enough. One thing I do love about Hasidic Judaism is joy. It's the push of joy, 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 joy. Wow. And even in Christianity, that was the key thing at one time was joy, joy.
That's it.
They got away from it. You know, I mean, it seemed like they've got away to more serious political matters and stuff like that. But I think as far as I'm like you, I'm in the last stage of my life now. I think when you get around 45, 50, 55, at that time is when you start adjusting. And my thing is, I just want to experience it now. I'm to the point now, I don't even want to learn it as much, although I do find interest. I need to experience life now, not learn life.
Yeah, yeah. And you look back and everything you learned, really, was it really helpful? I mean, for me, let me tell you, I've learned a lot.
Right, me too.
I filled myself, the cup was full, boy. I have, and I'm still learning. I mean, I got all these beautiful books here. If you could just see the shelf here beside me,
right,
it's packed. And,
same here.
But I'm telling you, at the end of the day, not one word in those books is going to give me that peace.
No,
not one word.
No,
they're going to point to it, but they're not going to give me that peace.
Right. I agree. And that's the thing is it seems like we're conditioned on learning, book knowledge, sophistication, you know, all the scholarly things, but we forget the most important part, and that is living it. And that's one thing the Jesus in the New Testament, like you said, whether he did, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is what he teaches is it's life experience, especially in Matthew 5, when the Beatitudes and stuff like that. That is all action. That is not Gnostic. That is action, living what you know.
It is a way of life.
Right.
And speaking of the sadness in the Christian church, have you ever noticed those Greek Orthodox or portraits of the Orthodox patriarchs?
Yes.
These Orthodox fathers, every one of them, you know, it's like it's a sin to smile. You know? God forbid you smile.
Well, look how here. Look how they got Jesus on the front right there.
Oh, what a bad! He was having a bad moment there.
I look at these pictures sometime. I'm like, no wonder these people don't like their religion. They're so unhappy as I see the portraits of them.
Who would want to be not happy?
Well, even when you watch the movies of Jesus that they portray in Hollywood, he's always serious and really
fixing his hair.
I really believe he was more of a joyful person. If he existed, he had to be funny to live the life he did.
Yeah. I tell you what, whoever penned the Jesus allegory or historicity or however it worked out,
whatever,
they gave the perfect teaching. Jesus Christ is a perfect living demonstration of the way of the Tao.
Right.
You know, Christ was the Tao.
Right.
In expression. In fact, I'm sure that idea was around at the time, whoever wrote that.
Right.
Those books and stuff like that. So the Tao is the Christ.
Right.
And what does the Christ do? The Christ is born in you. The Christ is the light. The Tao is the light that lights every man that comes into the world. And he says, take no thought for what you might eat, might drink, might think. Don't worry. Don't worry. Look at the birds. They don't care. They're not worried about the Great Reset.
Right.
So Jesus has said the same thing. He said, don't you let it worry you. Consider the lilies.
Right.
That's Taoism. He was a pure Taoist.
Right.
That's the way I see Jesus now, that I'm coming to that conclusion.
Well, I agree.
In other words, it's not about accumulating religious ideas. In fact, Jesus was the most non-religious person I ever read about. And so
you just blew people's minds right there.
Yeah. Hey, Christ taught salvation was an undoing.
Right.
Not a doing. It's an undoing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, even within, and I speak a lot from the Jewish thought because that's what I've been through most of my journey. And, people are sitting around worried about halakha issues or Torah issues as far as whether they can do this or do that. And sometimes I look at the Creator in my third eye and I'm looking at him like, come on, guys. Come on, guys. Yeah. And I think that's a lot true. I think we overthink things. I know I do in my life.
Yeah.
And I believe that we try to learn so much that we forget how to live. We forget how to love. And we forget overall, my responsibility is to my neighbor, whatever faith or whatever he is, I need to identify with him and draw light and bring light into his life also. And I think we forget that sometimes.
Yeah, and spiritual vision, which is the vision of Christ or the vision of spirit,
right,
is non-conceptual.
Right.
And this is what I see lacking in a lot of these talks and debates online, is when people talk, they get so concerned about whether or not this theology or that dogma is correct, or what religion or what the Buddhists teach as opposed to what the Eastern Orthodox Church teaches. And spiritual vision transcends all that.
Oh yeah, and have you ever noticed the spiritual people that we listen to, like some of these initiated rabbis, initiated Christian mystics, the Buddhists? They all can get along. They all love each other, and they don't argue religion. They're in the spiritual Sufi also. When you got a true Sufi master, these people don't even care what religion you are. It's about connecting in the oneness, connecting in the unity that we're supposed to. One of my favorite gospels is the Gospel of Mary, and I love some of the points that she brings out, that we are whoever wrote it, that unity is the key thing, that we are one. We are a Borg Star Wars thing. We are a dialect as far as Doctor Who. We are a oneness, but we want to be separate within our knowledge and separate within our walls. And this is where all of the world problems to me come from, and not so much just in spirituality and all aspects of life.
Yes, brother. Yes, brother. And you finally, when you come to that maturity of growth, when you're finally raised in your consciousness and lifted up above the conceptual mind, you get that you don't want anything separate or different from anybody else anymore. In other words, I don't want anything, Brother Michael, different from you.
Right.
I don't want to know the differences about us. I want to know the sameness.
Right.
What is the sameness? What do we share? So if I'm talking to a Buddhist monk or a Christian or a Hindu or a Baptist or a Pentecostal, I want to know, what is it that we can share that's the same?
Right. Exactly.
I could care less about the differences.
Right. And I think if that philosophy was brought upon even political nations, which we know it won't, because we know there's another thing involved there, that nations wouldn't be fighting with each other, because we're looking for the good in each other and not looking for the negative and separation. And really, that is spirituality in a nutshell, is looking for the oneness, looking for the things that we relate to each other, that we can learn and love each other. And Jesus, the Jesus of history or whatever, taught that. That's all he taught was that we are one, that we love your neighbor, love this. And this is a concept to this world that is really, and even in Christianity, has changed the meanings to fit their ways. In other words, they have created, well, if they're part of us, they're our neighbor. But if they're not part of us, they're not our neighbors. I've heard that so many times, even within Christianity. Pentecostals saying that about Baptists, Baptists saying. So I think that's one of the biggest problems we have, is the separation.
Yeah, one church doesn't, even in Christianity, like you said, the church down the road doesn't get along with the church down across the street.
Oh, yeah.
No, they don't. No. And why is this? Why? Because it's all theology. It's based on ideas, beliefs, and concepts.
Right.
Man, when you accumulate knowledge, it becomes a block.
Right.
When you're ready for the experience of God or the experience of enlightenment, all that knowledge has to be let go.
Right. Right.
You can never be anything new by staying where you are.
No.
You have to let go of the branch you're holding on to so that you can raise to the heights of crystal vision and awaken to the divine illumination of the divine Christ self, which is the one eternal self, the divine spark,
right,
that we all share.
right. Well, like down here in the South, we'll have on one corner the First Baptist Church, and across the street it's the Second Baptist Church, and then you have the Free Will Baptist Church over here, and you're like, what the hell? Can we not get along here? What's going on?
We can, and they can't. They can't. You know, I even wonder sometimes if the Bible was given to humanity because they knew that people would be divided over it.
Right.
I mean, look in the news today, and the media and the newspapers and the mind control and all the nonsense. Isn't it to keep us divided so that the world elites and those who are the international bankers and the money grubbers of this world can rule over us?
Right.
Well, this is not new. This has been around. What if they gave us the Bible, or at least the King James Bible,
right?
At least in the King James form. Right. What if, I'm just saying, what if they gave it to us to divide us? Did it work?
Yep.
It did.
Yep.
It did.
Yep.
I know people today that will not speak to me that I was raised with.
Right.
Because of one Bible verse, you know.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like, oh my God, you know, it's like you'd be better without the Bible, brother. I'm sorry.
Well, you speak about King James when years ago when I'm always a new translation. I want to see what other people have to say. I lost friends who were King James 1611 people telling me that I was possessed or letting the devil in because I was reading other translations. Is God that stupid? I mean, I hate to say that. Do you really believe that? Come on.
Right. It's all interpretation.
Right.
This is why I'm moving much more into the Taoist. I'm going more Tao Zen, which is pure gnosis. I mean, Zen Buddhism and Taoism is pure Gnostic.
Right.
It's Gnostic without the theology.
Right.
And that's where I think I'm heading these days, brother. I'm sick and tired of arguing and being separate from my brothers.
Right.
I don't want to do that no more. It's painful.
It is painful.
You know?
It is. It's a sickness, really. And the thing is, I think sometimes, and you made a very good point a while ago about whatever branch you're hanging on religiously or whatever you are, you've got to be big enough sometimes to let go and open your mind and say, now I have a good friend of mine. He's much younger than me, but he's going through that second transition of initiation in his life and stepping on one foot, but looking at other things on the other foot and trying to justify that. And we have talks, and I know he gets frustrated with me because I'm like, let go of the branch, let go of the branch.
Wow.
But sometimes I think that we can really encourage each other through our actions and our attitudes and our love for each other.
Yeah.
That I can trust Amar to let go of this branch and know that he has no ego to bring me into his group or his community or his denomination or whatever. He's just trying to bring me into the creator. He's trying to bring me into that, whatever it is that I can't describe it. So I think when people can trust us in that way, we'll see more results. But as long as we're holding, and I'm like you, brother, I got 50,000 books behind me. As long as I'm saying, this is the truth. This is the truth. You must follow this truth. Or my God, if you mistake, like you said in your journey, when you hit rock bottom and you were in the places you didn't want to be, the worst thing I could come to you and say is, Amar, you're going to hell because you have reached the bottom and there's no forgiveness for you. So, I mean, I think that's really the problem with us today in these religious identities are. There's nothing wrong with being in church. There's nothing wrong with being in whatever you're in. The problem is you've got to be mature enough that we've got to come together on the positives and leave the negatives aside. And if the negatives are more than you can handle, you're in a bad place to be because you're hanging on dogma, to me, which dogma destroys. It does not do anything but destroy.
That is so true, brother. And back to that, you cannot experience anything new if you're clinging to the old. You cannot put, what was it? You cannot put new wine into old wineskins.
There you go.
And so you can't. So if you really want to experience something new in your life, if you want to experience illumination, then you have to empty the cup, let the conceptual thoughts go, let your belief systems go.
Right.
I mean, for a moment, just for a moment, and then something new can come in, and then you can reinterpret everything. See, I don't believe that Christianity is the problem. I don't believe that Buddhism is a problem. I believe the ego is a problem. Yeah. And so the ego wants to be saved. You see,
Right.
the ego wants salvation.
Right.
This is why I hear people in the Eastern Orthodox. I heard my brother the other day was debating another Orthodox guy, and it was actually a beautiful conversation.
It was good.
Marty Leeds had with this. Actually, it was pretty neat. I enjoyed the love that they shared between each other.
Right.
You know,
because the first interview wasn't that way. The other guy that he debated, I didn't sense that at all. I felt dogma fighting somebody with truth. But this second one, you're right. It was great.
These two interviews that Marty Leeds did with the Michael Whitcoff, and then he did it with this other Orthodox guy. Now, those two videos side by side, if you watch them, demonstrate the two states of consciousness.
Yes.
In that first state of consciousness, Marty Leeds and the guy, it was like Michael Whitcoff was like a what do you call it? A clothes hanger.
Ooh.
He was like a clothes hanger. He wasn't moving nowhere.
No.
And you might as well be talking to a clothes hanger, because he was no different than just stiff, you know. And of course, Marty Leeds, you know, you can't break through that. You just can't break through that, man. No. It ain't gonna happen. There's no laughter. If there's no laughter, then I'm sorry, there's not much else gonna happen.
No joy. No joy.
Yeah, and no spiritual vision either. And I think Miracle Marty Leeds was trying to bring it back to that, but Michael Whitcoff wasn't having it. And that's your typical religious mind.
Right.
And I do want to say this about Michael Whitcoff. I read his book. Did you by any chance read his book on Freemasonry?
No, I did not.
I read the whole thing. Well, I got the audio book and I listened to it.
Right.
And it was painful. I'm telling you, it was as painful as it is watching. And, you know, he went into Freemasonry.
Right.
He wrote a whole book condemning the beautiful esoteric path of Masonry, which is all based on natural law.
Right.
And he condemned and demonized Freemasonry. Now, listen, when he went into Freemasonry, he went in seeking the light.
Right.
Because as a Mason, the very first thing as an entered apprentice, when you reach that first degree and you walk into that lodge, you're blindfolded, which is symbolic of meditation.
Right.
You see, you're blindfolded. Christians think that's just evil, barbaric. How could you enter something blindfolded?
Right.
Well, Jesus said, go into your closet, didn't he?
Yes,
Shut the door.
He did.
Well, that's that blindfolding symbolic of that meditative state. And you're walked around symbolizing the sun going through. So anyway, the thing is, at the end of that initiation, and I will give the secrets away because it's not really a secret. This information's online, that you're there seeking the light. Right. They ask you, what do you want? And you say, the light. Well, Michael Whitcoff didn't see the light in Masonry, and he's not experiencing the light in Orthodoxy. And there's a perfect example, because he condemns one and moves to the other. Pretty soon he'll probably move to something else. Who knows? Because I tell you, brother, when you discover the light, now you can experience the light in both Freemasonry and Orthodoxy.
Right.
Or you can just throw both of them away and experience the light in the park with the dogs.
Right, exactly. And I watched his response video, not Marty's. I watched Michael's response video he did after the video. And man, it was just so negative. I mean, he was just like, I did. And he was like, you know, he teaching basically that Marty was a heretic and, you know, and all that. But when I watched Marty's response, Marty did, you know, he did take some shots, but yet it was not in religious dogma, you know. But so, I mean, yeah, even in the response videos, you see a difference of what's going on here.
That's a perfect example. The difference between the religious mind and the Gnostic mind. See, Marty Leeds is a Gnostic, and his consciousness is up here, brother.
Right.
And so Marty could see below. And it's like there's nothing you can say to a mind that's closed in like that.
Right.
There's no way you're going to join with the, you know. And this is all about joining. Now, in the second interview Marty Leeds did, that was awesome.
It was awesome.
The two brothers were joining. The other brother was willing to join with Marty, and it was like, all right.
Right.
You know, that's the way it's supposed to be.
Right. And they didn't really agree fully with each other.
No,
but yet,
they
didn't. But the fact of the matter was you saw light and they laughed and they got along. And that's what we need to see. But you brought up something earlier I want to get back to before we get off this thing. And you were talking about scripture. And one thing about scripture is dogma and scripture. Scripture is a script. It is script that somebody wants you to live out. And yeah, I mean, think about it. A movie script is, we don't put the term scripture, but it is a script, and scripture is the same way. So the church wants you to live that script according to the way they want you. Well, of course, if you're that actor, you're not going to get along with that actor on the Torah side who's teaching their script differently. So to me, it makes perfect sense what you said. Scripture is giving to see, I think, a test to see if we can actually get along or if we can't get along. Because if you take it literally and dogma, you're not going to get along with anybody except those that are in your script. So my thing is, I'm at the age now, like you said, I could just throw it all away. You know, I'll be honest with you, and I'll probably be judged for this. I haven't studied the Bible in quite a long time because I've read it so much. I don't know what value more it could do for me. I've had to take it up now. And even the Zohar and stuff like that, I'm at the point in my life where I want to experience, not read no more. I'm just to that point.
Yes. Yeah, that's good, brother. That means you've arrived at that level of consciousness or maturity where you're ready to experience all that God has to offer.
Yes, no matter where it's at.
It's not like you didn't try
the
books. You didn't try to live the different theologies. My God, I joined every church in town. You know, I was Methodist one day, the next day I was Pentecostal. I can't tell you how many times I was baptized because every church has a different formula. You know, said, "Oh, you were baptized in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Oh, you weren't baptized right." So I had to get rebaptized every time. And then finally, I'm waterlogged.
I have the same journey. I'm just thinking with you, brother.
I'm afraid of water. I'm afraid of water now. I can't even take a bath without nightmares.
I think I was baptized 10 times.
Oh, man. At least I was baptized at least or more.
And I didn't change any.
No, it didn't do nothing. I was cleaner.
But I really think that journey is, you're right. And when I started looking on the outside, looking back, I'm like, God, that was the stupidest.
My God. I know. I wonder if God's going to punish me for being baptized so damn much.
I hope not, brother, because I'm going to be in the baptism hell, I think.
Me too. Man, I'm telling you, though, brother, there you go. That's all because there was different formulas in different churches.
Yes.
And then, of course, I got initiated in different Hindu temples, too. It's the same thing. Every one of them did it different, you know. Said, "Oh, you didn't do it right." I got to be reinitiated now, you know. Damn.
I really think God is sometimes, whatever he is, wherever he's at.
Laughing.
Oh my God. He's probably like, just, what have I done? What the hell have I done? Oh, that was fun. But yeah, I'm with you. And I would do the same thing, you know, especially even in the apostolic branch. There's so many different forms of baptism within that. But you're right. We tried to be initiated in what we're at, where our path's at. And we don't ever realize that 20 years down the road, we better be in a different place. Because if we're not, unfortunately, I know people that have been in the same place for 50, 60 years. They've never moved. And they're some of the most miserable people. Not all of them. Some of them can be happy. But majority, and when you step ahead, they get jealous or get angry, or, you know, you're leaving the truth and stuff like that. But in turn, it's really their ego wishing, I believe, they could let go also and experience or have that courage to face other opportunities but they just can't do it because the dogma's got them so tied. Now,
dogma and ego are one and the same.
Yes,
I noticed. And as I get again in this level of experience in my older age, I'm realizing now there is no salvation for the ego, and that's the problem. People think they're going to be saved.
Right.
They not.
No.
What happens is you will have spiritual awakening is awakening from the human.
Right.
It's awakening from humanhood. That is from the ego's world.
Right.
So in other words, you're not really a person. You know what I'm saying? Like the person on your driver's license, is that really you? Is that really you? No. And is that person going to be saved when he goes to church? That person, true spiritual awakening is awakening from that personality, from that false self.
Right.
And you realize there is no salvation for the ego. The ego is not going to hell or heaven.
No.
The ego is an illusion. It's an illusion. It's a dream.
Right.
And so when you awaken from the dream, you realize I never have been lost.
No.
I'm one with God, always was one with God. There is only God, and nothing could change that.
Right.
That's called enlightenment or awakening.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. There is no salvation for the ego. And when I hear these debates and talking about different levels of salvation and all this stuff, I'm saying, you still think you are going to go to heaven as a person, as a human.
Right. God
doesn't save egos.
No.
Spiritual awakening demonstrates this.
Right.
The ego is an isolated, separate self that is closed in on itself, that has its own thoughts, its own perceptions. It's everything that's going to die when you cross over and leave this body. That's what people want to save, and it ain't worth saving. Best thing you can do is let the ego go.
Right. Right.
Transcend the ego, outshine the ego, awaken.
Right. Let the ego go. That's a good word. That is a good word. Well, hey, and you just described the movie The Matrix, to be honest with you. And I love that movie. And if people could watch that openly and realize that there is, like when Neo realizes who he is, and when you really realize who you are, that you are one with the Creator, that, this is all just a fake reality that we're living now.
You are the one. You are the
one.
Yeah.
All of this shame that you feel and rejection you feel is all the ego, because that's not there from the Creator. It is there from yourself.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And I heard it said once by a Taoist sage that the whole problem with humanity is that they want to improve their self.
Right.
And there isn't one.
No, that's right. There is no self-help.
I'm telling you, if you sit in meditation, demonstrate this. Don't take Amor Russell's word for this. When you sit down and let your thoughts rest, and you realize and when you transcend your ideas, your thoughts, and your perceptions, and when all that falls into the background, what's left? What's left? It's just pure being awareness.
That's it.
And I'm telling you, there is no self. There is no Amor Russell.
Right.
There's only this pure being awareness.
Right.
You see?
Yeah. Well, I think that's why we have, especially within Orthodox, which you're definitely familiar with, we have so much liturgy and prayer books and stuff like that, is to keep us from realizing that oneness with the Creator. Because when you're busy trying to recite these words and memorize this stuff, how many times, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, I'm a sinner, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That puts you in that position.
That's negative.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
But that is one of the biggest prayers within Catholicism and Orthodoxy. It is called the Jesus Prayer. And you got to break above that.
Salvation by sin.
Salvation by sin. Oh, there you go. There's the
Aren't they doing it? They're doing it.
Yeah, they're doing it.
That's the left-hand path. That's salvation by sin is the left-hand path. Wherever, the only difference is that the left-hand path people, they fully indulge in sin.
Right.
Whereas Christians are not much different. They're just wallowing in it.
Right.
Like guilt.
One
sin,
foot in,
guilt.
One foot out.
In. Always guilty. Again, the Orthodox pictures,
Yeah, they're sad. They're sad people.
I'm sad.
Yeah.
It's like, my God, but yes. And so that right there is a whole nother thing. Illumination undoes that.
Right.
It's an undoing. What is it undoing? It's undoing sadness.
Right.
It's undoing pain. It's undoing guilt, undoing guilt.
Right.
That's the path.
Right.
Now, back to the pure being awareness, I just want to say that doesn't mean you don't have an individual soul.
Absolutely.
Because I believe you do, because even as the Kabbalah teaches that divine spark in you is to develop while you're here in the earth plane. What I'm saying is that that's not the ego. That's not a person. The individual soul is a manifestation of the all omnipresent creation.
Right.
Or God, if you want to call it. In other words, the divine spark is a manifestation of God.
Right.
And God's not separate.
Nope.
Your divine spark and my divine spark are one and the same, because we're all one in God.
Right.
It's a dance. Now, I do believe there's an individuality. In fact, I think that's the purpose of this manifestation here on the earth plane. I feel that we are actually developing and birthing a soul.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why we're here.
Right.
And things are supposed to be bad here.
Right.
Or we wouldn't be here if it wasn't bad.
Right.
We came here to experience the pain, the evil, if you will, and to transcend and go through these processes of change and to develop character, develop virtues,
right,
and higher qualities that will serve as a vehicle to take us from this life to the next.
Right.
But it's all one, and it has nothing to do with the person or the ego.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
And while we're here, repair what we can and transform that here. So maybe when the next ones come down, it's not, we're all continually trying to repair this thing. So that's good. So we are at our time. So anywhere you want to finish here, thoughts before we go?
Yes, I do. I want to say this, that if there's nothing else anyone could take home with them, it's the lie and the deception of perception.
Right.
Our perceptions are different.
Right.
I perceive things differently from you. You perceive things different from me. And the television and all the nonsense on the media is influencing and fueling that perception deception.
Right.
And it keeps us separate. It keeps us divided. It keeps us apart. Even the perception of Christian, the perception of Buddhist, or the conception of anything else, Sikhism or whatever, all those are just perceptions.
Right.
When you're ready to awaken, you let those perceptions, that veil is the perception is the solid stone that must be rolled away from the tomb of your consciousness.
That's right.
And when that stone is rolled away from your consciousness, which is the tomb, then you start to experience the light of resurrection life for the first time. But that stone is perception.
Right.
You see, because everyone's lost in a field of perception.
True.
Everyone has their own perception, their own point of view. And when all points of view drop, then there's only God and there's only this one life experience. And that's where we'll go home.
That's where we're home. That's good. That is good, Amar. Very good stuff today. And thank you. And we will be back next week unless Amar has something to do. We will be next week with another topic. And just really enjoy this. I enjoy sharing light. I try to share truth to help people make better choices, to make better just everything. So until next week, we just hope that you take the words that were spoken here, let go of that limb that Amar was talking about, open yourself up, and experience. Yes, exactly. Open hands. Yes. Cool. And enjoy that silence and that thing. And I think next week we'll talk about meditation, because I think a lot of people have a wrong thought about meditation, and they don't really understand what you're talking about. So I think that's what I want to talk about next week, is what true meditation and that is. I think if that's okay with you, that's what I want to talk about.
Love it. That's right up. That's where I'm at.
Okay. Okay. Till next time.
Okay.
Thank you. And y'all have a fantastic week, and we'll see you very soon.
Much love. Thank you. Peace.